Okay, we just need one more person, and I think we're just waiting for Johan.
Texted Dewan, he's typing, I don't know.
Mm,
Okay.
there he is. Hi, Johan.
Sorry about that.
Oh, okay, great. We do have a quorum then. That's terrific. Okay, so good evening, everybody. This is the regular meeting of the Finance and Claims Committee for November 13th, 2025. First order of business will be the roll call. Looks like we have a quorum. We have Heather Dunn, Ann Winifstrand, Joanne Lopez, and myself, Jim Freyer. That's a quorum.
You forgot about me.
Oh, Dwan. I can't keep my excitement down. Thank you for joining. Sorry I didn't
Thank
see
you
you.
for having me.
Okay. Okay, first order of business will be we have the roll call is the acceptance of the minutes. I think Ms. Biagirelli, did you have a comment on the minutes? Are you still on?
Yes, I'm here. I just corrected the spellings of a couple of names for you.
Okay.
It was I think it was the September minutes. Sharon Connor's name and Joyce Liu. Joyce Liu, it should be Liu throughout the minutes, and Connors is Conners.
Okay. So those are the minutes of 9/11.
Correct.
9/11. And so does anyone have any questions on those minutes? Otherwise, okay, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as corrected by Ms. Biagirelli? Okay. I'll
I'm gonna
assume Dwayne.
abstain.
Okay. All right, so we have 4 in favor and 1 abstention. And then the minutes of 7/10, July 10th. We didn't have a quorum at the last meeting, so therefore we'll accept those minutes unless anyone has any comments or additions to the minutes of 7/10. Okay, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as stated? 1, 2, 3, 4. Duane, are you abstaining?
Abstaining again, yes.
Okay, so that's 4 in favor and 1 abstention.
Excuse
Okay.
me, Chair.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to move the minutes? I didn't catch the motion.
Yes, I made the motion. I
Okay,
should, okay,
thank you.
all right, thank you.
But we don't have a quorum of the people that were there anyway, right?
We don't have a quorum of the people that were there. We don't all have to be there, but as long as somebody accepts the minutes, it's okay. Okay. Next order is public participation. Do we have any, Monique, do we have anybody on the line that wants to speak?
No, we don't have anybody.
No? Okay. We'll close public participation. And what I'd like to do is go out of order here, unless anyone has a problem with that, and go to new business, and then we'll come back for the reports right after new business. So the first item under new business, which is Roman numeral 7, is authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with FAPS Holdings, doing business as GoVolution LLC, for project 4446 payment processing services for total for fiscal year of $3,500 accounts so noted. Do I have a motion on that item? Ms. Winterstrand moves the item. This is, and then we have Jared online, and we also have Lisa Biagirelli, who can, I think, take the lead on this and explain what this project is all about. Lisa, do you want to handle this?
Sure. Jared, is that okay with you?
Yes, please.
Okay, and
Please.
also the purchasing agent, who was involved with this as well, Sharon Connors, is also on the meeting. This is we issued an RFP, request for proposals, to potentially change our provider for online payment processing. This is something that, due to credit card and checking account security issues, it's not something that the city of Norwalk handles itself. So when a taxpayer wants to pay over the phone or online with a credit card, debit card, ATM card, or an electronic check, we're using a vendor that has the proper security clearance and ability to process these payments safely. We had a payment provider that we started using in 2020, and we felt it was time to go out to bid for a potentially different provider that would be able to potentially provide the service to our taxpayers at a cheaper cost to them, because our current provider is charging 2.99% additional fee for credit card, debit card, and ATM card processing online, and $1.25 for an e-check. We ended up having about 15 submissions to the RFP. Only a smaller number of that actually do business in Connecticut and are familiar with our assessment and collection software. So we narrowed it down basically to companies that met that criteria. We interviewed 3 different companies, and we decided to go with the one that had the highest rating for those of us who were doing the interviews, which included Sharon, the purchasing agent, me, our assistant tax collector, Al Palumbo, and our delinquent collector, Cynthia Hayes. And the company that had the highest score among us was Govolution. And primarily what did it was the cost. The other companies also would provide basically the same service, but this company is cheaper for the customer. So instead of now paying 2.99%, they would be paying 2.4%. The cost for the electronic check would go to $1 from $1.25, or if we absorb the cost ourselves as a city, they would charge us only 25 cents. So in light of the fact that we have, the administration has articulated the desire to have green initiatives and a paper reduction and so forth, we felt that because we're potentially reducing the use of the paper check by offering the electronic check for basically at no cost to the taxpayer, with the city absorbing it, we estimated our costs would be only $3,500 a year, which is a relatively nominal fee considering what our operating budget is for my division. We would absorb that fee. We thought it was a good idea also because there is a significant amount of mail fraud happening, not only throughout the country, but particularly in Fairfield County, where taxpayers are sending us a check. We're sending a check to somewhere, and that check is being stolen from the mail stream, altered, and used by a fraudster. They cash that check and we never get the money. And that's terrible for our taxpayers and terrible for the city. So for all these reasons, we thought that the use of the e-check is something to be encouraged. And it would encourage the taxpayers potentially if we were to offer it at free of charge to them. So that was one of the reasons also why we selected this company. This would still need to be approved by you. It would also need to be approved, as I understand it, by the full council. And then the law department would deal with the company to come up with a contract and so forth. But this was our recommendation. And I would be very glad to answer any questions that you had or any concerns you have, or to get feedback from you, because you're the policymakers. So.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Ian, Ms. Winterstrand?
Unmute. It's not so much a question, it's more a comment. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's a modernization that encourages people to use e-checks. It's more secure. And I would think that having to track paper checks that were potentially lost in the system or fell to fraud, that puts a lot more work on you guys. So this just seems more efficient. It seems cost effective. I appreciate you, doing so much due diligence to come up with this. I think it's a good solution.
Thank you.
Do you have any idea of how many paper checks we get?
How many
Or
paper
let me
checks?
put it another way, is percentage wise, how many checks do we have? Is it 60%, 80%?
I don't know, but it has been going down over time because during the pandemic in particular, we saw a spike in the use of the either credit card or electronic check. But I don't know. I could try to figure it out looking at our software to find out, but I should also note that during our collection cycle, we have a lockbox service. So if you pay by check by mail, that check doesn't necessarily come to the tax collector's office. It goes to our bank and they process it, and we actually pay for that. So it out a cost. So theoretically, the use of the e-check is also going to save us money at that end. And it's also going to get the money into our accounts faster because we're not waiting for that check to be processed, even, which is faster through Lockbox than it would be if we got it in our office because they're faster than we are. So that's not really answering your question, but it occurred to me based on your question. So I thought I'd just throw that in.
Well, it's just from my experience, I find very few people use checks at all anymore. There's some people that don't write any checks. It's amazing. So, but then there are some people that will do nothing but write checks. But
There is a part of our demographic that likes to pay by check, and there is a part of our demographic that likes to pay in person too. And however they want to pay, it's perfectly fine with me as long as they pay. So we
Yeah.
want to offer as many options as we can to everybody to accommodate all of their preferences, really.
Okay, good. Any other questions, comments? All right, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
And how soon is that going to start? Next round?
I'm hoping if it moves through, depending on what the council does and then what the law department does, I'm hoping we could implement it potentially during this next cycle so we could save the taxpayers some money. If we implement, we'll do it as soon as we can.
Well, I don't see that this wouldn't go through the council, so.
Okay. Thank
we
you.
can looking forward to making it easier to pay our taxes in the future. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Number B, a resolution to approve a special appropriation totaling $200,000 for the city's contribution to the free meals program for Norwalk Public Schools. Funds to be transferred from the general fund balance account, so noted, to the Norwalk Public Schools lunch fund account so noted. Do I have a motion to move this? Mr. Lopez, thank you. I'm going to turn this over to our CFO. This is basically a transfer that was already, I believe it's already been approved by the BET. And now it just comes to us and then eventually on to the council. So it reflects the taking care of the free meals that would look like it was going away. And not only are we going to be moving some of the city money around, but we also have a contribution from the McCord Foundation to help out with this. So Jared, do you want to fill us in on the details on this one?
Sure. Yeah, and good evening, everybody. And The reason that this is before you this evening is because it is a special appropriation, and special appropriations need to, they go through the BET, but also through the Common Council. And so that's just to give you an explanation of why it's happening in this way and in this order. Yeah, I think you summed it up, Chairman. There's a portion of this. It was roughly the total amount that the Board of Ed was looking for was $500,000. 200 was going to come from the foundation, 200 from the city, and then the remaining amount, it could be more than 500,000, would come from the Board of Education. I do want to note, and I know the mayor has pointed this out and was pretty disappointed because this was part of a larger budget deal with the Board of Education. And so they originally put in as part of the deal to reduce this funding, and probably should have been more selective about where they were going to achieve some funding reductions. Because as you all know, probably better than anyone else, there was a lot of resistance and opposition to this change of reducing the school lunch program. And so here it is. It's before us, even though it was a commitment from the Board of Education to reduce this funding. I think it was there was a good consensus that it shouldn't be done, and so we're asking for your support, and the mayor supports this program wholeheartedly and the funding for it.
So to be clear, what you're saying here is that the city was under the impression that the Board of Ed was going to fund the entire program. And at the last minute, we find out that no, they're not going to fund it. And we have to go scramble around and look for close to $500,000.
Right. So in the original budget that passed, there was full funding of the program. As part of the, I don't know any other way to say it, but the deal that was struck post the approval, after the approval of the budget, this was one of the elements that the Board of Education agreed to put in there as a reduction of approximately $500,000. And so now now this would effectively restore that and go back to the original plan of fully funding the school nutrition program.
Okay. Any questions? Any comments? Okay. All those in favor? Juan, you in favor? Juan, are you voting on this? Okay, it's approved. And yes, he does. Okay, thank you. So it's unanimous. Thank you. The next two items I'd like to read together, which is C and D. C is authorize the appropriation of $3 million from the Municipal Grant and Aid Fund 58 for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026 in the following amounts for the following purposes. Transit District Grant, $610,885. DPW Snow and Ice Removal Chemicals, $450,000. DPW Centralized Fleet Maintenance, $230,000. DPW Operations Full-Time Salaries, $1,709,115. And total use of the municipal grant and aid, $3 million. D, authorized to allocate $3 million to Norwalk Public Schools account, so noted, for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026 from the following general fund accounts. Transit District Grant, as so noted, $610,885. The DPW snow and ice removal, $450,000. DPW Central Fleet Maintenance account, so noted, $230,000. DPW Operations Full-Time Salaries account, so noted, $1,709,115, and total transfer of $3 million. Do I have a motion? Ms. Winterstrand moves the motion. So I'm going to turn this back over to our CFO again. But basically what this is taking grant money that was originally targeted to the DPW over and above what their budget was, and then reallocating that to the Norwalk Public Schools. Mr. Schmidt, do you want to explain this? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's been a couple minutes since I was off mute and forgot how to. So this was also part of the larger budget deal with the Board of Education to get $3 million more into the Board of Education. In order to do that, we were using state grant money. That grant money has restrictions on it. The restrictions are that it has to be used for things like roads, public transportation, and the like, which is why you see the accounts that you see there. And so these accounts were identified as being eligible for the grant money. And so effectively what we did was we took money out of the general operating fund, out of that budget, and instead are going to pay for those out of the grant, out of this $10 million grant money that we received, which I think everybody has been made aware of and has been talked about. I know that Senator Duff was instrumental in getting that for the city, and so this is a portion of that. So what that does is it frees up $3 million in the budget, in the operating budget, and that $3 million is being transferred to the Board of Education. So and we met with the Office of Policy and Management in Hartford, myself, the mayor, and Tom Livingston. We went up there to meet with them for us to understand the uses of the funds, of the $10 million, and to also to gauge from them whether or not what types of projects we could use the money on. And so we also talked to our auditor just to be extra sure, because the OPM suggested that we do that. And so this has all been checked and double checked by different entities. And so this is the way that we are getting that additional $3 million to the Board of Education.
Okay, some questions, comments on this? It's not an easy concept. Ms. Winstrand.
No, I appreciate the explanation. It's pretty straightforward. I'm just wondering, once that $3 million is allocated to Norwalk Public Schools, then it's at the budgeting discretion of the schools as to where that money goes, or does that still have to be applied to specific infrastructure or certain salaries at the school, or is it their discretion?
There was an agreement with the schools,
Okay.
As part of this deal about how money generally, but also specifically for certain programs that were to be restored. And so there was an agreement on that. about, you know, once this money gets in there, because money is fungible, it could be used for other things, but
Okay.
but there was a commitment and an agreement, you know, restoring things like the music programs
Right.
and you know, the other programs that were, I think, paraprofessionals and a few other key priorities of the schools and of the mayor.
Okay. So this is just really, which we're up to speed on. This is just really showing how the money is moving from that state grant specifically to the school, where it's
Correct.
coming from.
Right. Yeah, and just to maybe back up a step and more directly answer, we only have the ability to appropriate a dollar amount to the Board of Education. Beyond that, it's basically in their court as far as what they do with that. So this would be adding to that appropriation amount that was originally in the budget for the Board of Education.
Okay. Thank you.
But the
And so we
first,
keep, and that's one of the goals here was to keep the budget flat funded. And so by taking that 3 million and moving it to a grant account, it moves the $3 million out of the operating budget. And so that we can still restore the 3 million, reallocate that 3 million to the Board of Education from DPW.
Okay. Thanks.
but the initial first step is to
You're
go
welcome.
into the city, into the DPW. Then it comes out of DPW and goes into the grant account. But just to be very clear, is that the movement of $3 million away from DPW is not going to impact DPW's operations at all this year.
Correct.
So in other words, this would have been on top of
Yep.
their budget and almost like an increase to their budget, but then it comes out and goes to the Board of Education after that.
Right.
Any other, okay. Ms. Dunn?
Jared, have you seen the school budget? Are you, like, as we're transferring this over, this kind of shell game that we're playing, have you actually seen the line items of where this is going, where they intend to use it, and that they don't have any overages carry over? Because I know Lunda said that he thought this was going to be the first year that there was no carryover from the previous year. Are you
Yeah,
involved in that?
that's correct. And we're still between the city and the Board of Education. We're still finalizing numbers for the audit for last year. And so I don't think we have final numbers, but we're anticipating that what what we were told by the Board of Education is accurate, that they have effectively no carry forward and nothing being carried over into FY26 as they normally would.
We don't know that and haven't seen that. Theoretically, just theoretically, they could have an excess of $4 million and don't need the 3 million and could do whatever they want with the next $4 million, right? I'm not saying they do.
Yes, theoretically that could happen. I think there's other
We would know-
factors that would make that not a wise thing or a you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it would, you would see it anyway. I mean,
We would see it.
Yeah.
We would definitely see it for sure.
yeah,
You get to
because there's
see
going to
it
be, there will be a reconciliation done by the end of the year. It's just getting all the nuts and bolts in the right places. But if they were to take that $3 million and spend it someplace else, we would certainly see it.
Right. And if there was carry forward, if there was, say, $4 million in carry forward, I can only speak for myself. My recommendation, if we couldn't get agreement on what to do with that additional money in the current fiscal year, my recommendation would show up in my recommended budget, which would be a reduction in the Board of Ed's budget by $4 million.
but we can't do that, right?
I'm sorry.
I thought we couldn't, we had to, flat funded from where the starting point was, that we couldn't reduce?
It would be a reduction, like in most cases, a reduction on their increase. So if they say had a $10 million increase, it would be reduced. I would recommend reducing it to $6 million.
And this was all part of the Bob Duff thing with the, what's the nice way to say it?
The
the,
settlement,
What?
the settlement.
The document he wrote to make them not extend the superintendent's contract, right?
That's correct. And that was one of the things
They
that,
did do after the fact anyway.
right.
Okay.
That was one of the provisions that I mentioned during the last item that the mayor was very upset about. That they didn't live up to their agreement as far as what was going to happen with the superintendent's contract.
Right, that was, okay. I had another question about that too. So that's all concerning that whole issue. So he's still going forward with giving them the $3 million. Was there other finances that was in that kind of like contract thing that he made up? I don't know. Or is it just the $3 million?
It was the 3 million. There was more that was done in before the end of or shortly after, but affecting the FY25 budget. There was additional funding. In total, it was about $6 million that was moved to the Board of Education.
Well,
But
it's
there
200.
in exchange for that, they did find $2 million in other reductions. That was also part of the deal, was that they would get 6 million, but there was 2 million in other reductions, mostly in central office, and unfortunately the school nutrition program was part of that.
But
Okay,
the other
so-
thing too is that we're also, Heather, we're also moving that $200,000 that we just approved. That also is part of this.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think that's an important program. I'm just kind of trying to wrap my head around, if this $3 million, it does not go through, what are the outcomes or the impacts
Right.
of, because it's all part of something that went down that, you know,
Mhm.
I don't understand. I'm not overly comfortable with. But if it's something that we need in the school district, that, you know, I understand that, but given that we don't really see us as the finance people, we don't see the Board of Ed finance, and we're just
Right.
throwing money at something that we have no control over. So I think, you know, we need to be a little more conscientious than we would normally be. Not that we are, but
No, but I think to your point is that when the reconciliation is done at the end of when all the books are closed, and we find out that indeed they didn't need this $3 million, that's abundantly clear, and they're going to be penalized for it in subsequent budgets. The state law is that you can't have a budget the city can't dictate that you have a budget less than what you started off with last year.
Right.
Okay.
I get it. Eli Manning and I figured it out, James.
Okay.
But so, all right. But so I guess my kind of questioning about it is why we're not waiting to see that they actually need the $300, because we haven't seen a budget, a line item budget. And I understand why we don't, because it's, you know, we stay in our lane. And again, I'm a teacher, so you know, I see the need for the money, but I just want to make sure that we're responsible.
Yeah, and just to,
Otherwise, we're doing it now instead of like after the reconciliation, because maybe they only need $2 million and don't need $3 million, you know?
I don't think their analysis has changed enough or much since the budget was adopted as far as what they would need. I mean, we're still only 4 months into the fiscal year, and so I don't see, and I haven't been told that that they've had any changes in their projections of what they would need to fund the original budget plus these other the other programs that they wanted to add into it or restore, including music.
I had
And I also think because there was so much conversation around this and so much that is in and about the public, that if they were to not live up to other aspects of the deal, you'd know about it. You would hear from parents. Parents were the ones it was a groundswell. It was a groundswell from the bottom up that came from parents. And so if there was an effort by the Board of Education to not fund those things, you're going to hear about it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that if there's extra money that we aren't overly throwing money at them when we could use it for something else. Even within this, working with our youth or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I have one other question that's kind of off topic about this, but you would probably know. So what if we lost like 400 kids? Like what if the numbers of our students dropped? Do we still flat fund it at 0%? As a starting point, or like a district that if they lose a quarter of their students by attrition or something?
I
do
don't
they
know.
really have to?
I don't know what where they hit economies of scale, and that's really what it comes down to, is even if you lose 400 students, that's going to be spread across 12 grade levels. And so does that warrant losing teachers, not filling positions, or that would be something for them to decide. As far as they do work with a demographer to project numbers. And so they do that kind of late in the budget process, which was, part of a conversation having to do with charter revision. So that
a state law?
I'm sorry?
Isn't that a state law that cities have to fund their Board of Ed budgets at, at the starting point of where they were the previous year?
Yeah,
Yes.
but I
Yes,
think your
they have.
question is,
Whether they have decreases, like, instead of, I know, like Darien was talking about shutting down an elementary school, but they're still gonna fund their Board of Ed at the same level.
So this is what you're talking about is called the minimum budget requirement.
Yeah.
And it effectively says that, for all intents and purposes, that you have to provide as much funding as you did in the previous year. And so
Don't have the same number of students.
there is an adjustment that you can make for
Yeah.
the same number of students. However, I would say that's not going to matter. Even if they lost 400 students, the budget is still going to increase significantly. And so from a practical standpoint, even though there's a lot of talk about the MBR, the minimum budget requirement, and its effect, the increases in salaries alone would far exceed anything necessary so that we aren't violating the MBR.
but you're absolutely right, though, that the MBR does provide for significant demographic changes. You can go below the beginning, whatever the baseline of the budget was. So,
Right.
but as Jared says, in reality is that you're not going to lay off a third of your teachers if you drop down, 400 students, because it's going to be spread out across. Okay. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous as well. Good. Thank you very much. Not an easy little concept. thinking about easy little concepts. Next one is letter E, resolution to authorize the establishment of the Recreation Sports Activities Account, Recreation and Parks Fund. The account shall include revenue sources and program expenditures as defined in the Recreation and Sports Activity Program, document dated October 30th, 2025. Account funds shall not lapse and shall be available exclusively for the purposes of identified in the program document. The Director of Recreation and Parks shall report to the Board of Estimate and Taxation and the Common Council on the status of the account prior to April 1st of each year. This, if you think the transfer of the $3 million was a little complicated, this is going to make your eyes bleed, I think. But it is really, I think, and I'm not going to even bother to try to explain it to you yet, but I think this is one of the things that people have been talking about is visibility and transparency. And this is a great example of department head and our CFO getting together and realizing that we've got a lot of numbers floating around and we should be tracking them and controlling them and being able to report back. And also, I think it's going to enable us to manage our parks and recreation activities a lot better and more efficiently. So I don't know, do you want, Jared, do you want to start this? And we have Robert Stowers here who can do it as well. So
yeah, if I could start, and I'm just going to hit the
Yeah.
high points, and then Robert can talk about some of the details and probably answer some more specific questions. But and I think you introduced it well, Mr. Chair. This is really going to provide a lot more transparency and predictability for the related programs, recreation, sports, some learning programs, and aquatics. And just to be clear, this account exists in a different form currently. And so this is really just a bit of an expansion on the account, adding some other programs to it. It combines the sports and aquatics programming with the previous, what was known as the Play and Learn program, also known as the 4,000 account. And it creates one single non-lapsing account. And one of to the point of the accountability, transparency, predictability, all of the expenditures and revenues that are part of this account are laid out in the document. And so you'll see exactly what money can be spent on and where those revenues can come from. One of the reasons that we wanted to set this up and Robert wanted to set it up was so that we know each year and can tell how much money we project it's going to bring in, and so there wouldn't be a shift of other programs or other funding from the general fund to this account, or from this account to the general fund. So there won't be any games like that being played. And not that there have been in the past, but this just gives visibility to things like that, so that what's in there now is in there, and that's what the money can be used on. So we are part of this also is to convert it allows us to and frees up some money in the general fund to convert a part-time position to a full-time position, which is very much needed in Robert's area in order to do coordination of programming. We also are requiring for his recommendation, and based on past experience and also kind of based on loosely what we think the use of these city assets would be. And so there's a dollar amount, actually a percentage, between 3 to 5% of the budget that would go back to the general fund each year to account for. So you have, it's kind of it's a self-sustaining, self-sufficient program. In addition, we're anticipating that there would be surplus revenue at the end of each year, as there has been in the past, that would go to the general fund. And this is kind of a recognition that, we're using the fields, or we're using the buildings of the city, or other assets of the city. And so kind of compensates the city for that. And then finally, also having to do with transparency, there would be presentations to the Common Council and also to the BET each year, at least once. And one would be timed up in the budget process to take place before April 1st. So kind of in conjunction with other presentations that Robert would do with his other programs, there would be an overview of this program to talk about. This will be the first year of the program in this form. So next year, when he comes back to make the presentation, you'll be able to see. Okay, there was more money than we thought that was remaining, so maybe more can go back to the general fund. Or maybe there's another, they want to expand because there was more demand for a program. And so they want to expand a program in the following year. And so adjustments like that can be talked about, and it could be tweaked if the BT and the Common Council wanted to. So I just want to hit those few high points, and then Robert, if you want to say anything, or if you guys have any questions, he can certainly help out with the details.
Well, before we start, Robert, I neglected to get a second on the motion. It's done. Thank you for moving that. Okay. All right, Robert, it's all yours.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, you described the purpose perfectly. And thanks, Jared, as well, who has helped kind of construct it, helped me construct it in such a way that it's, it's real clear and explainable. As Jared had said, we had the 4,000 account right now. This account similar to this does exist, but it hasn't been. There hasn't been much oversight except for internally with the director and of course the operations chief, but there hasn't been an oversight by the BET or the budget. And I'm a former government performance auditor, which looks at enterprises and companies all the way around it. Something like this would not pass the muster. And so when I first came in here, I started a couple of years ago trying to restructure this fund. In the new recreation and sports activity account, as Jared said, will add transparency and predictability. Unlike the current play and learn account, this account will have more accountability. The funds will be budgeted yearly, which currently they're not. So it would go through the budget process like the rest of the budget. There would be oversight by the BET and the council. Revenues and expenses will be reported annually. Transparency would come through budgeting the programs and the staff each year. This combines also the sports aquatic programming, also our recreation programs, our family and youth programs. We were also putting money in the 4,000 account as miscellaneous. We didn't have really an account for it to go to. Sports in the aquatics, we had a fund to go to, but some of the programs that we were putting on that were popping up, we were putting those funds in the 4,000 account. So now they will be budgeted and deposited in such a way that we will they'll be more accountable. Also, because this is not only a budgeting fund or revenue fund, but expenses as well. So we will be taking on the expenses of those programs, which currently the general fund pays for those expenses. They have the revenue, so we'll be taking the revenues and the expenses to those accounts. Again, also, this account will provide for a transfer to the general fund for a full-time person that is she's our senior scheduling, recreation, scheduling, reservation, a guru. She works with ActiveNet, which is a recreation facility scheduling programming system with a financial back of the house. So she's also our accounts receivable person as well. So she's collecting the revenues. She's making sure the revenues are fitting the program. She's training the program staff that is inputting these things. So we have a division of labor. So we know that our program people are scheduling programs. She's the monitor. She's the oversight of that. So it's very important that we keep her. We've been penny pinching here and there to keep her. Those funds have dried up, and so we need that position, and this account will account for that as well. As Jared said, we estimate we could put a maximum, minimum or maximum of 5% of the budget of our revenues going back to the general fund each year, and that's going to grow as we grow these programs. One of the sure things that we're bringing in, as you know, is the recreation center. The recreation center will have a fee-based. They'll have some fee-based programs, but we will generate a lot of our funds through rentals. We have 3 multi-purpose rooms. One is a room that will hold about 150 people for receptions, for funeral receptions, for wedding receptions, for birthday parties. We have smaller rooms. The other 2 multi-purpose rooms are smaller, but we will be scheduling to have affordable fees, and we also will be contracting with we'll be putting out an RFP for 2 or 3 caterers. So the caterers will provide, as we have those commercial kitchens, we want them to be controlled and we want them to be maintained. They have expensive equipment in those facilities. Excuse me. So we will be generating more revenue through those fees, and so that will go. Those will also, as a part of our recreation activities, will go into this fund. So the fund will continue to grow, and the general fund will continue to our percentages will continue to increase. And if we find that we're making more money than bringing in more revenue, we can increase those percentages. If we find that we're not, we can make some adjustments as well. But historically, over the last, since 2010, these accounts have this 4,000 account has had a growth of about 14%, and our programs cost of revenue they have always came out ahead. So I think we have a pretty good history of raising the revenues, and this will give us more opportunity to control our revenues, and also give you the council and BET more oversight and from the budget into our reporting. So I'll take any questions.
Just before, I know Duan has a question and Ms. Winstrand has a question, but I just wanted to comment that I think one of the first, I think when you had first come on board, Robert, and I was on the BET, I remember having some questions about some of these programs, and it was with a great deal of difficulty to understand the profitability of a program, and thereby deciding whether it's a good program to continue or to expand. And I think this methodology that we want to adopt is really going to help or go a long way in helping him manage and be responsive to the people that participate in these programs. So I can't say more. I couldn't say anything more about how enthusiastic I am to see this. When Jared explained it to me the other day, you know, I was all over it. I thought it was really a great idea, and just shows that in the city that we're really trying to get hold of our expenses and control them in a very responsible way.
Yeah.
So I'll shut up. Juan, you had a question?
Yes, really quick. Do we know any of the numbers, Rob, about the the cost of the rental and all of those things, or it's not really flushed out yet?
Well, in our pro forma for when we were putting forth the proposal to get the money to build this, we also had to do a program pro forma. So I can share that with you. But there is a projection, and those projections will go into the budget. We'll review them again. They were made early on, and I compared them with some of the community centers that are of that size and have those programs around the country, but specifically a couple of recreation centers in Seattle. I talked to some of my previous staff to help me with a lot of this, free of charge, no consulting fee, and yeah, we have some general idea of what it is, and we can share that with you. One of the things we want to build over time, though, and I know the city is struggling, that is one of the reasons why I have to take care of our recreation needs in the city. And I think this program will help us better take care of those and grow and meet the trends that occur in recreation, that pop up, things that pop up in the middle of the year where everybody, the craze, like pickleball did, that there's always crazes popping up through the year. You may not know it, but even babysitting's become a program around the country in recreation, teaching young kids how to babysit or how to sew. A lot of young kids now are taking up sewing and tailoring in recreation programs. And so those are the things that's going to help us with. But what I want to do, and I've talked to the mayor about this, we want to grow a scholarship fund because we understand that people out there are struggling, and there's people who can't afford our programs. So we want to make the prices as affordable as possible, at the same time trying to grow a scholarship program. And so that hopefully we can put some of this money aside and come up with a real good program to qualify people, sort of like the schools do, and scholarships some folks. We do that now with our our Learn to Swim. We get grants from Stu Leonard, and so we've put quite a few over the last 3 years. We've gotten something in the neighborhood of about $30,000, and we put people through several hundred people through play and learning. So we hope to do that. But a bigger picture is that this will help fund our recreation programs. What about our parks? Well, what about our parks? All right. So we are also, just for your information, has nothing to do with this particular resolution, but just for your information, we're working on with the chief of staff and with the leaders in this city on creating a park fund. and Park Foundation, I mean. And we are working with two consultants now that work well together. They formed the foundation in Stanford, and Charlie McCabe, he been around for a while. He's well known in the parks and recreation industry. He's helped us out with a few things in Seattle. He's worked closely with some of the leaders in Seattle when I was there. And he set up and created the foundation in Austin, Texas, and he ran the foundation. So these two individuals now are putting together a information to build a steering committee of folks that are the likely kind of people you want on a foundation that's raising money. So foundations are pretty strict about funding parks. They like people to see what they have funded, and they're not really geared to operations, but they like to make our parks look pretty, fun landscape restorations, fun urban tree canopy growth, trails, playground equipment, baseball fields. That's where we'll get our park money. So, I've been around for a while, and I've never totally depended on the general fund. So we realize city struggle, and parks. I think we can raise a lot of our own money if we're given that opportunity, and this is one of the opportunities.
Thank you for that. So the reason why I asked, because one of the my key things, and I've been saying this when we first started talking about building this community center in South Norwalk, is affordability, accessibility, and people from the community having access to these things. So please, when you get a chance, you can send that to me, because I think all of that is extremely important.
Yeah.
Because I think it's, when we think about this, it's the narrative of Sono, and I know we hear the Sono and they taking over, but we really want the community to have access to opportunity. So nowadays, affordability is one thing when it comes to the city, but it's another thing when it comes from the community that often disenfranchised. So I would love to see it and talk more about it.
Okay. This recreation center is funded by the city. Youth and families, they come in free. There's no charge to get in or be a member. It's not the YMCA. YMCA will be there, and they'll have their programs, and we will have some fee-based programs, but they'll be strictly people who really want to be instructed in learning how to cook, or music, or recording. There will be a recording studio there. There's podcasting opportunities to learn how to podcast. So we'll have some structured programs ran by instructors that we'll hire on contract. But for the most part, people are the youth are welcome to come in and hang out and watch TV. We have movie room, we have basketball, open court. So it's going to be a welcoming facility. It's a community recreation center. It's not a country club or anything like that. So and we want to provide scholarships so that we can help children who can afford it to take some of these structured programs. And we're encouraging the Y to do the same thing with their. They'll be doing esports, and they'll be doing STEM classes, and so we're encouraging them to come up with some scholarship money as well.
Okay, Anne, you had a question? You're on mute.
I'm exactly in the same page as Duan, just asking about accessibility. And, if there's going to be more revenue generated, can we get an actual commitment? More than a hopefully, could we get an actual commitment and or start a conversation about how we really commit those funds for people so that there's equal access to all these services and instructors and special
Absolutely.
programs.
Absolutely. You get a commitment. Absolutely.
But I think the other thing,
And also
Good.
what we're looking to do is set up an advisory council.
Mhm.
The way I've run community centers in the past and are with advisory councils that of parents or adults that and also some high school students, one or two, to be on this advisory council as well to make sure we're doing the things you're talking about and you and Dewan are talking about, to make sure that those things happen. So we are trying to generate some names now in the community, some of the nonprofit agencies in the community. We're trying to generate a list of names so we can nominate them and give them to the new mayor. So
Yeah, but I think another thing, right, is I know you guys are partnering with the YMCA, but I think it's other organizations that could be partners and offer free services too. So I think
Yep.
you want to really consider that as well, because, people get grants and they don't have access to the population as much, right? So this could be an avenue to where their services meets the community. So please consider that as well. And it also elevates some of these grassroots nonprofit organizations as well by leveraging those relationships.
I think we're getting a little far afield on that. I think we're talking about the process of
Yeah.
how we can get the numbers that we can and have a tracking mechanism for how Robert and his team can make the decisions to do some of the things that people have been just brought up. So let's see if we can just stick to this because we're going on a little bit too long on this. Not that it's a good bad subject. I agree with you 100% that we've got to make sure that the general public gets the benefit of everything that's going on there.
Absolutely.
Heather,
So I have two questions. I'll just tell you both. So this is in the operating budget, right? And so, yes, no.
No, this is not. This is separate from the general fund, but it will be budgeted as a fund.
Right,
So-
it's not in the operating budget. It's a separate non-lapsing account outside of, so the revenue that goes into it goes into this account specifically, and it gets used specifically for the purposes that are identified in this document.
So
let me
the,
explain it. I think what Heather's getting at here is that this is a fund that's set up that you can break down the various revenue expense items that generate revenue. So if you want to increase that particular program, you can actually project. You will actually be projecting what the revenue is going to be, which would then go into, and the difference between the revenue and what's in the fund, where the expense and what's in the fund, would help you get those programs going. So you need to have, by setting this process up, you'll be able to justify what you're going to put in the operating budget on a more accurate basis. And you'll have backup for it.
actually, my question was more about, because I thought it was in the operating budget. If you want to use things like, if you're going to rent out a space and an oven breaks, or you need to buy a new oven, typically that's not an operating, that's more capital budget is the things. I wanted to make sure that you can use it that way, or do you then have to go back to the council and ask for things in the capital budget, or can you do what you want within that?
Yeah.
So if there were to the extent that any of these activities take place in city buildings, those kinds of things, whether it's due to something that happened as a result of one of these activities or the many other activities and programs that operate within the city buildings, it would be those kinds of capital projects or those kinds of expenses would be funded in the way they normally are, either through, if it's not a capital expense, would be funded out of the operating budget, Park and Recs or out of the capital budget if it rose to be a capital expenditure. So the
Does he have the
these
flexibility to
these
do that, though?
particular,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Does he have the flexibility to do that though, or he has to go to capital budget for some of those things?
No, it's,
Okay.
It would have to
it's,
go to,
it's,
it would have to
it's,
go to capital budget.
Yeah.
yeah,
If
it's,
it's-
it's
if
all,
it's-
you still have to follow the rules of
Purchasing.
whether it's
Purchasing.
land use and building maintenance
Right.
is gonna take care of the building.
Right.
Okay, it's not gonna come out of Parks and Recreation. If a stove broke because somebody left the pot burning too long, you know, that's still gonna be a capital item or it might not be a capital item, it might be just a, you know, maintenance item that takes care of, but it would not be coming out of this process that we're talking about here. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Maybe think about it this way too, and one of the reasons that it's set up the way it is because a lot of programs kind of a fee for service where somebody's paying, you know, $200 to participate in an aquatics program or whatever the program might be. So there's a direct relationship between what they're paying and the service that they're getting. It's you know, their sports and recreation programs that are being paid for, and there's a cost associated with it. And so that's really what this program is meant to pay for.
Yeah, we would be paying for Heather, we would be paying for expenses that are cost by the program. In order to run a program like, say, Biddy basketball, we have to buy basketballs, we have to buy uniforms. Those are expenses. There are some things we can purchase according to purchasing, but purchasing has a limit of what we can do. So like Jim, the chairman said, we have to follow the purchasing rules no matter what. But yeah, it will, and our programs will have expenses that will be paid out of this account.
And so my last question, so my other question is usage fees do those still go back to the council? Something like, you know, paying for the moorings, so the rate fees for usage of space is still a council thing. It's not like a lockbox that,
Yeah.
you're not going to ask us how much Play and Learn is going to charge people, right? Because that would just be crazy.
And no, I mean, we have fees that have to go to council, and so we will still follow what we've been doing.
Thank you. That's it.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay, let me call for the vote. All those in favor? Mr. Wiggins,
Yes, I'm in favor.
fine, it's unanimous. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Starrs. That was
Thank you,
very,
Mr. Chair.
very
and Thank you,
informative.
committee. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
everybody. Okay, that's the end of new business. I'll circle back to the reports that we have, and I apologize, Denise, and to Lisa and Susan. I apologize. I thought that by going through some of the new business items, they were kind of complicated and convoluted, and it would be easier to keep everybody's attention. And so you guys had to suffer through that. So why don't we go to the public, or to the Golf Authority? I see Denise Brown. You want to give us a quick overview of what's going on in the golf?
Good evening, everybody. It was long, but it was interesting. So did learn a
Good.
little bit about some new projects. I enjoyed that. For the Parks and Rec, for Oak Hills. Still thinking backwards. So my report tonight is for August and for September, but basically in September, you know, we've had two very good months for the operating account for Oak Hills. In September, we have we were like over budget by about $182,000. And so we've had very strong golf rounds to contribute to that. Our expenses were a little bit over what we had budgeted by around 47,000, but you know, to the good, we're about 145,000 strong, and we have about 600,000 in our operating account. So we're feeling pretty comfortable with that. Obviously, our next report as we head into October, November will be a little bit different since everything has quieted down now. But we've paid about 49,000 in repayments to the city debt. And we are in the process of the second round of our bunker project, which is going to cost about $180,000 to wrap up the project. So that should be completed by the end of November. Everything seems to be going according to the way the estimates were brought in, and so that seems to be running well. The restaurant has reduced its hours. It's now going to be in operation from Thursday through Sunday. I think their hours are going to be 11 to 9 o'clock for most of the evenings. They'll still continue with their music. They've added a trivia night, which sounds like fun. Like on some Thursdays, they're going to try to kick that off. So that's a nice little incentive to try to get some people in. Our golf pro, Paul Alexander, has actually left his position with Oak Hills. And so there is a committee that's being formed to put out an RFP to search for a new head pro. The committee is meeting and talking about what they'd like to do and what they're looking for, what their specific requirements what they would like to change in the prospects of a new pro. So that's something that they're going to be working on throughout the next couple of months. And hopefully that's something we'd like to have in place, obviously, when the season begins. We do have an assistant pro right now who has been taking over Paul's responsibilities. So he is able to keep things running and would be able to keep things running if we don't find a pro, you know, come say January or February, or for some reason things get delayed. But that is in the works. Our 5-year cart lease has just been, it's going to be completed this December. We have a new lease in place. We'll get about 70 new carts, which come in March. God bless you.
Sorry, I tried to mute myself.
So we're looking forward to the new carts. At least the golfers are, I'm sure. And let's see, the tennis committee, or the whole tennis program, we've put out an RFP for a new vendor to run our tennis site. And we received about 7 applicants, which I thought was very exciting because the last time we put an RFP out, we only received 1. So I think with the improvements with the tennis center that we've been able to generate a lot more interest in our tennis center. We've narrowed it down to 4. We did have interviews today with those 4. We've pretty much narrowed it down to 2, which will continue a meeting next week. And hopefully we'll be able to select a new vendor to run our tennis site. They've got a lot, the 2 vendors that we brought it down to, one is a corporation and one is an LLC. Both of them have extensive service though in the field of tennis and operating programs. And so we're kind of excited to figure out which way we're going to go. And that's kind of been wrapping up in a nutshell everything that's kind of going on right now with Oak Hills. And does anybody have any questions?
I had one question on the on the cart contract. Does the revenue go to the pro on that, or does that go to the authority?
That goes to the authority.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the pro doesn't have, you know, no, that doesn't go to the pro.
Okay.
So.
Anybody have any questions? Otherwise, we vote to accept the report of the Golf Authority. All those in favor of accepting the report? I assume.
I'm forward to.
Okay, thank you. It's unanimous. All right, thank you very much, Denise. I apologize for keeping you.
Okay. And Jim, we had talked about the possibility of maybe doing a quarterly for our meeting. So if you want to just think about
Yeah, I
that.
was gonna bring that up toward the end of the meeting. We'll put it to the committee. I think that it's interesting to listen to what's going on, but the Gulf Authority seems to be cruising along really pretty nicely, and that maybe we should think about doing this maybe once a quarter, or unless something comes up that you want to bring to our attention. So, does anybody else have any suggestions on that? And we can talk about that for the rest of these reports that we go through, whether it's necessary to have them every single month that we go through these things, or should we just do it once a quarter? Or once every 6 months? Anybody have any other suggestions?
I mean, we would still submit a monthly report. And
Yeah, I would
do a
still think, I
review.
mean,
Yeah.
you prepared the monthly report anyway, so
Mhm.
if there's anything in there, we can take a look at it and you can be summoned.
That's fine. Well, you can obviously get back to us whatever you decide.
Okay,
Okay,
we will mull it over.
all right. Thank you very much.
Thanks very
everybody.
much, Denise.
Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next up is the Lisa Biagirelli again to take us through the tax collector's narrative. And I think we can just probably focus on October, since you gave us both September and October. But do you want to just take us through that?
Absolutely. With your permission, if you wouldn't mind, let's do the claims first, because I do
Okay.
need to have a vote on that.
That's
Whereas
fine.
the rest is just for your informational purposes. But
Right.
on page 49, I think 46 and 49 of your packets, there are actually 2 months worth of claims that need to be addressed, including numerous special requests. On page 49, there's 2 special requests. One is for 42,219.40. The other 90,062.60. Both of those are prior years. Those are from the 2023 grand list. They are overpayments that are showing as a result of court stipulated judgments. These are properties that have changed hands. So we need to refund the former owners who paid these amounts. And they went through the court process to appeal their assessment. And this is what was adjudicated in court. So those are 2. And then on page 56, there are 2 additional special requests. Both of those are for car washes. Russell Speeder car washes, those were paid in error. One is 30,352.10. The other 30,995.46. The escrow agent and the taxpayer both paid, and we should refund the overpayments. So on these 4, I will be glad to answer any other questions you have. Otherwise, I would need your approval and then send it to the full council.
Okay, we have a motion on that. Thank you. Ms. Dunn, I'm sorry, I should have said that before, but any questions or comments? I think the only question I had was, and I think it was explained, was the two for the car washes. The other ones were clearly a court order that stipulated that we had to make the refund. So all those in favor? Okay. Mr. Wiggins? Okay.
In
it's
favor.
Unanimous. Yep, I got it. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, should we go back to
Okay.
the your narrative then?
Yes, for the narrative, so for the October collections report, you can see that we were at 53.41%, which is pretty much where we need to be. The real big news going forward, of course, is we are preparing for our second installment billing. We're working with our assessor's office on initially motor vehicle supplemental billing, which will probably go out first. Paul Gorman and I were actually texting each other through part of the other discussion at this meeting about the motor vehicle supplement. So we're working on that. My goal is to get all of the bills, the motor vehicle bills, as well as the second installment bills for real estate and sewer use and business personal property out by hopefully the second week of December. That is our goal. We had a very good luck with our collection over the summer, getting the bills out as early as we could. So that's what we're working on now. The narrative also includes the information about the cannabis tax. We're up to $460,000 in cannabis tax receipts. So that was good news. We're doing some other enforcement. We have a wage garnishment that's happening this week. If you work for the Board of Ed or the city and you owe Norwalk taxes, we give you an opportunity to bring your accounts current. Otherwise, we institute a mandatory wage garnishment for those taxes. That is happening now. And we've already booked the room for our next sale of land for taxes, which will be in July of 2026. So believe it or not, we're already working on that sale now. Even though it's only November of 25, we've started working on that. We are going to include zoning violation fees and blight fees in that sale. We collected more than $200,000 at the through the September sale for zoning violation fees and blight fees. It wasn't quite as successful as I had hoped for numerous reasons, but we can discuss that at another meeting. But we're trying really hard to bring that money in for you guys. And I'll be glad to field any questions that you have.
Any questions? Mr. Lopez?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Lisa. Lisa, just a quick question. Just looking at what was paid to MTS, the motor vehicle vendor.
Yes.
I think that's like 45, like 45, 46% was paid to them. It seems like a large acquisition cost. Can you just briefly remind me of what the original terms of the agreement were?
Yes, and actually, sorry, I forgot to mention that, and the assessor Paul Gorman is also on the meeting, so he could chime in. There are actually two ways that we pay them. They get a finder's fee per vehicle of $50. So there's that amount that goes to them. And they also get, I believe it's 36% of whatever the revenue is that we bill and collect.
38.
I'm sorry?
38%.
Okay, 30. Thanks, Paul. 38%. So that amount that you're seeing there, it's a combination of the $50 fees and the 38%. And I can give you more breakdown next month if you'd like. We just wanted to give you some idea of what was happening with that because the initial billing went out and we really haven't had that much of an opportunity to report back on how the program is working. But we're still in the inception stages, and maybe Paul can speak to that since he's here.
Sure. I actually just put in the last set of what we call our data mining bills, where Municipal Tax Services has been mining our prior grand list to find gaps in people's registrations where they may have lapsed and didn't get added back in, so they got a free year. And so today I put in the last 31 bills that were found by MTS for that. We're probably about 30 days away from sending out the first batch of letters from the city sweeps when they've been going throughout the city, checking license plates, checking out of state license plates. We actually had one of the principals of MTS in our office today checking out of state license plates from New York on the New York DMV website that we have access to. All part of developing the information that they need to send out the letter saying for all intents and purposes, you may have a tax liability for these years. Please contact us if you feel as though this is an error.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. Thanks, Paul, and thanks, Lisa. Okay, gives me some idea. Yeah, thank you. If you have any questions, I'm sure I can email either of you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely,
You're welcome.
absolutely.
Anything else, Lisa? That's it?
Not at this time.
I had a just quick question on the cannabis. Do
Mhm.
they pay in cash or do they send us a check?
No, I bill them based on what I get from the state, and they pay by check.
Okay.
There's two different retailers and both of them pay by check.
Do they take cash or do they just take, I've never been in one. So do they still take just cash or do they take credit cards and checks and stuff?
I've never been in one either, so I'm not sure.
Who wants
but
to volunteer?
I can find out because I have some friends who partake, so I will report back at the next meeting.
I'll go on a field trip if you need me to, Jim.
Oh, what a great guy. Just goes beyond the call of duty. That's great.
Quick,
Okay, we'll
quick
put that-
question. How long has those funds been coming in from the dispensary, and where do they go?
It's like
If
about
you
a
know.
year and a half, isn't it?
We started in June of 2024. The way that it works is the state sends the comptroller's office data on what the dispensary sold in a certain time period, monthly. And then Chitsame forwards that information to me. I'm responsible for billing them. So I have to send them a bill. It's based on it's 3% of their gross sales for the month. And so I send them a bill and then they pay me. They have I bill them in arrears, basically. And they send that check and I turn that money back over to Chitsame. And where it goes from there, I think the CFO has addressed this at prior meetings. It's going to be directed in a certain way. Jared, help me out here.
Sure. Yeah, this was all part of a state program, and there's a statute that exists that says what this money can be spent on, and so we kind of similar actually to the mechanism that we just talked about for Park and Rec. This revenue is set aside in a special account, because it has to be spent on these specific purposes, which could be things like mental health and addiction services and the like. And so I don't believe any of it has been allocated yet. I know that in conversations between both the police department and Lamont from Community Services, that they've been in conversations and trying to figure out the best way to use the funds
Yeah, Jared, because these I'm familiar with the law, and I know different cities does it different ways. I know Stanford was using United Way to disperse the funds, and I've talked to the mom years ago, and he did say, I don't think they're going that route, which I do think is a good idea. But I know obviously this is not the purpose of this conversation, but yeah, that money is supposed to specifically go to communities that was affected by the war on drugs, if I'm not mistaken. And I did a lot of research on it, but I don't know who I need to talk to, but I definitely want to start having more conversations about this, because it's not necessarily mental health and so on and so forth. It was specific communities that these fund that 3% is supposed to go to.
that may be, but there are definitely, I think it's more purpose driven than it is geographic.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I would say talk to Lamont, because he's going to be more familiar with the program.
Okay.
And just part of why I report this to you is so that you're aware of what we're collecting, because every now and then you may hear something from a constituent or read something on social media where they ask about, you know, where's the revenue from the cannabis tax? And it's in my report every month, but I'm not going to go out there and put that out there, but you are free to share that information. That's why I report to you. So in response to the thing that was mentioned about Oak Hills, I do have to come to you every month because of claims anyway.
Yeah,
So
no.
I'm going to
Mhm.
be at your meetings anyway, and I don't mind continuing to report to you because 90% of your revenue comes from property taxes, and I think you should be aware of what we're doing.
Don't take it personally. I'm not, not trying to get rid of people.
I don't think you can get rid of me though.
I'm just looking for more eggs, that's all. Okay. Any other questions for Lisa? All right. Um, all those in favor of accepting the reports? It's 4, and I assume Mr. Wiggins is a yes. Okay, it's unanimous. Great. Okay, thank you very much, Lisa. You're welcome
Thank
back
you,
next week,
folks.
next month, I should say.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Sharon, I guess there's a couple of, I think we just have to look at the report. I think the report looks pretty good.
Thank you.
We don't have, I just had a couple of quick questions on this, was on the IT items. There's, I assume everybody had an opportunity to take a look at this report. And I'd like a motion that we can accept the report and then we can have some conversation on it. Mr. Lopez, thank you. I hope you all had an opportunity to take a look at that. I looked at it and I was just curious about a couple of things that, like there was some computers bought for the Board of Ed and then for the IT department. Was there a big difference or were there, big disparity in the requirements for those computers, or could those things have been combined? I think my point is that when I see separate things or similar things that are being purchased for $90,000 and $50,000, if we bought them together, they'd be over $100,000, and we would have to go through a different process. But the same thing with the cars for the fire department and for the DPW. They were both Fords, and I was wondering, and there's 2 of them, and they're both about the same price, which would have put us over $100,000. But is there any similarities between us? Could we have bought them? In the question of the cars, we buy them from the same vendor, but could we have bought them all in one order? And it was only a week apart, I see. And then the other one is on the IT. Could we have combined those 2 orders for computers?
Right.
It's just a little
So I really
background.
can't speak to our fleet manager as to the timing of when they buy the fleet or vehicles, because maybe they are working with the specific departments trying to get the specifications on them so if one department has one need differently than the other department. uh, So that'd be more of a question to our fleet manager on that one. Regarding the IT equipment, meaning the computers, the school's computers are definitely a different type of computer or laptop for specifically for the schools, the students and the teachers versus our laptops, or desktops, which are used for the city employees. So,
So, I mean, does anybody have a discussion between the 2 IT departments and say, hey, look, we're gonna have to buy these and I'm gonna have to buy these, and maybe we could get a different model for, I don't know whether it was for students or whether it was for teachers or what it was. But I think, is there just anybody that asks that question that, is there any way that we can consolidate some of this purchasing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why we couldn't. I mean, can't hurt to ask, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'll
Let's see, who's the-
definitely talk to my counterpart at the Board of Education and see what we can do on future expenditures for IT equipment.
Yeah, I mean, it was done within 20 days of each other.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, and the same thing with the cars, unless the fleet manager, maybe the fire department's not covered under the fleet, is that possible?
Yeah. So PD and the fire department take care of their own fleet.
Okay, so that might be the reason.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Is there anything that we should know about this report that I didn't I didn't catch?
No, I mean, most of them are on the state or cooperative purchasing associations that we
Yeah.
are part members of, so that's good. That's why you see some of the vehicles look the same price. Is
Yeah.
because the price is already determined at a higher level, which is good. One thing that will be changing in the report, you get to still see me on a quarter point. Sorry.
I noticed.
The report may be less. I can't predict some of these. Um, there's a memo that was also included in my submission about legislation changes that happened in July, then went effective October 1st. The bidding threshold, um, which we aligned ourselves with, was 25,000. Now the state has raised it up to 35,000. So we're informing you that we will be shifting to that direction, which then would change the baseline of this report. I have to relook and re-review our purchasing guidelines to see the impact on that. Because I think we did call out specifically 25,000 throughout it,
Yeah.
that's a substantial change. So I'm
Yeah.
going to relook at the purchasing guideline to see if there's any other changes that we need to make, and I'll be back with that. And timing wise, I'll probably do it when we do the quarterly report.
Okay. Great. Anybody have any questions? Okay, all those in favor of accepting as is? Mr. Wiggins is in favor, so it's unanimous. Okay.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Paul Gorman. There wasn't anything that I saw in the package. Paul, so do you want to just update us with what's going on? And you also filled in, gave us some information on the motor vehicle, so
Right.
I'm glad we had you here.
Like Lisa said, we're working diligently on getting the motor vehicle supplemental list out. There's about 17,000 or so accounts of people who registered vehicles new to the city after October 1st of 2024. So we're diligently working upon that. We are working, like we said, with MTS Municipal Tax Service to get into the next phase of identifying cars that need to be taxed in the city. We are in the process of receiving all of the exemption applications from our exempt organizations throughout the city on what's called the quadrennial filing. It's done once every 4 years throughout the state, and this is the year that everybody has to renew. We actually did get one farm application for a change of pace for the first time since I've been here. So we've got that to review as well. Other than that, we're just working also towards getting ready to deal with the closing of the grand list and getting it signed by the end of January this year, by getting as much information into the system as possible for closed permits and for all the major construction that's been going on throughout the city over the past year. Outside of that, I'll table my 22-point discussion of how to improve the assessor's office due to the late hour of the meeting, and open the floor to questions if you have any.
Okay, just to make your life harder, I'll ask you a question.
Sure.
Do we, I always hear some talk about abatements rolling off on some of the big buildings that we have in the city. Do you have any idea of what the impact of that might be, or maybe put it another way, are there a lot of buildings that their abatements are starting to be reduced?
Well, every year, anybody that, I'm assuming you're talking about the enterprise zone programs, which
Right.
majority of them are apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And every year the amount changes. That's in the total. Because some buildings don't change for the first 2 years because the first 2 years is 100% abatement of the value of the building. But for the most part, that program's base changes every year. This year, and it also changes to go higher again because we get new applicants every year as well. And next year with the 2026 grand list, there's going to be potentially 2 or 3 very large buildings going onto it, with 370 West Ave possibly coming online, which is the new apartment building on the old YMCA site. And then across the street at 467 West Ave, which is a nearly 700 unit apartment building. So there are things that are on the grand list now might significantly reduce the grand list in the future if those buildings do come online to the program.
But if those buildings come online, do they pay that first year, they pay no tax?
No, they still pay taxes on the value of the land. So
Right.
if the total.
So it's,
worth
if,
150
for example,
million.
what we had on the grand list for that YMCA property in the past is not going to go down. Right?
No, it'll still be collecting more because the land became more valuable as vacant
Exactly.
commercial land.
Yeah.
And this year for the 2025 grand list, we're going to be picking up 85% complete of the building, which is taxable because they weren't CO'd by October 1st of this year.
Right.
Next year is the year that they could actually apply to become an enterprise zone participant. There are some hoops that they have to jump through to guarantee that they get the benefit. And if they do, then at that time, the value of the building would go away for the first 2 years. But the land would still be taxable, and that I would venture a guess that the land is valued higher than what the previous one was, plus the Y was tax exempt. So
yeah,
there's nothing coming in from that.
Yeah.
Other than
so, but
little bit.
The other buildings, every other building that the new building goes up is really not going to reduce our grand list. But then we do have abatements that are going away, or as they get older and older, they start to, it begins to be taxable. So my question is, well, how many of those buildings, do we have an idea of how many of those buildings are going to be losing their abatement or having it reduced?
Yeah, we have a running spreadsheet, and Jared, if you want me to share it, I will pass it along.
Yeah, give us some time because we're still crunching the numbers to do a full analysis of this, and
yeah.
I'm hoping that within the next month or two we'll have it all in a format that's easier to understand. But just to give you an example, there's like 11 Chestnut was one of the buildings. So they come on. They have the 100% exemption to start, and then it eventually drops down to 50, and then it goes to 40, 30, 20, 10 until the exemption is fully gone, exhausted. So in 2025, 11 Chestnut will be at 50%. 2025, when I say 2025.
I don't know what happened.
Did we lose him?
Because the landlord pulled the plug.
But in essence,
So
like
It's basically, it's 7 years, right, Jim?
yeah, it's a 7-year program where the building is exempted at 100%, then 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. So the big
Right.
boost comes in year 3 where we get half of the building back all at once.
Mhm.
Right,
And we're only a couple of years away from the deal with the mall expiring. So the
Right.
mall's value is going to change, taxable value is going to change significantly in the next couple of years. 123 Harbor or North Water, which is Harbor Sono. They are going into year 5, so they're down to only 30%. But like I said, we've got some new things coming on, but
yeah, but the new things coming on doesn't affect us at all, really.
no, it doesn't affect us. It's just,
But I guess where I'm going is that it would be lovely to see the commercial side of the grand list skyrocket.
Yeah.
I don't expect that to happen, but
But we're-
gradually we hope that we can see some of that, movement from residential over to commercial, which would make life a little bit more palatable for all our residents.
right. The only way, just so that for full disclosure, the only thing that actually makes it kind of hurt in a sense is that I'll use 370 West Ave as an example. It's coming on this year as an incomplete building, so we're able to tax them for the building. So this year's grand list is going to have X dollars involved as a building, that those dollars will go away next year because then they will be on the enterprise zone program. Same thing's going on with 467 West Ave. Last year, they were pretty far along and it was a pretty big building. So on October 1st, we had a pretty decent value on it for 2024. We're going to have an even bigger value on it for 2025. And then if they apply for and go for and get approved for 2026, that building value that we've had for the last 2 years is going to go away. So it doesn't hurt in the grand scheme of things, but because of the way that the state law works with that we pick up partial values, it hurts and then, or it helps, then it hurts, then it helps again. I guess is the best way to look at it. And we have Jared back if he wants to finish his example.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. My phone, the Zoom that I had going on my phone died, and so I'm back. I'm on my computer now. So, but yeah, so 11 Chestnut was on is it 50% exemption in the 25 assessment year, then it drops down to 40 and 26 assessment year next year. And so each year we're picking up incrementally more revenue from each one of these projects. And I guess spoiler alert, when you see the numbers and how much the values of these properties increased from the time that they were taken over before the enterprise zone program, before they were eligible for the enterprise zone program, to the years afterward, they regain the revenue and then substantially more because the value is increased so dramatically in pretty much every one of these properties, which was not surprising because that was the intent of the program, was to increase the value of properties and increase the grand list. So, and obviously spin off more jobs and everything else that's good for the economy. So, but that Chestnut is a good kind of current example of one that's on the cusp of getting rid of the 100% exemption, going down to 50, and then phasing it out completely over the next few years. And then, one of the big ones that will go off soon, which was structured a little bit differently, was the mall. And just the way that one was structured was just a 50%, and it wasn't technically, my understanding wasn't technically part of the enterprise zone, but they are, in a couple of years, they'll go from being 50% exempt to the following year will be 0% exempt. It will no longer be exempt. So it's gonna go in the span of 1 year from being 50% to 0.
That's when they sell it for more pennies on the dollar.
We'll see. To be seen,
Hope not.
but my point is we're working on a full analysis. It's a little bit complicated, just, trying to go back in time and figure out what the original values of the properties were and do a
Yeah.
good comparison of what they were before the program and what they are or will be in the future. But overwhelmingly, I would say it's you're gonna see large increases in the values of all the properties.
But are those all mostly residential?
Mostly, yeah, mostly, I would say. Paul, what do you think? Maybe 2 or 3 that are not?
Yeah.
So
One
we're
is
not
a- one
worried
is a
too
Most
much
storage-
everything
about,
on the, most
one's a
everything
storage
on,
facility.
they're mostly apartments.
yeah. So we don't have to worry too much about vacancy then, because most of the apartments are pretty well filled up. Whereas you got the commercial, the office buildings, based on their valuations based on the rentals. So if you don't have rentals, if you got a lot of vacancy in those buildings, their value is not gonna go up. Whereas the residential buildings will go up.
And what was it, Jared? Maybe you remember, I think it's Merit 1 and 2 are in the process of thinking about converting to apartments.
Right.
And there's a new state law about abatement for in process work on something like that, converting office buildings to apartments. But that's all in its infancy, right?
Infancy, yeah, I would say. I think there's a lot of decisions to be made about that yet, but that could be potential.
Yeah. Well, but that, forget about all the abatements, but even if it goes to residential, it's gonna have it'll have a less of a vacancy rate than if it was just office building, because there's no offices being rented.
Right.
Okay. I'm sorry, we're kind of rambling on that.
All right, and then I just have one last thing that I forgot to mention earlier. We probably are within a couple of weeks of, I was hoping that it was going to be sooner, but they're having a couple of issues with some of our information, but we should be by the end of the month, launching our new field card website for public access through a company called Data Scout, which is a subsidiary of Vision, who is our mass appraisal system provider. And they're just trying to get a few bits of information to be able to display properly on the website so that we can be back up and running for public access to run your own field cards. And it's going to come with a suite of tools that are so much better than what we used to have for people to do their own research about the valuation of their property.
Speaking of that, do we have any outstanding any outstanding cases on assessed values? Or are
Yes.
they all?
I don't have I don't know how many we have left, but yes, we still have several. I've got several high profile residential ones that are going to going to pretrial over the next couple of months. And there are still several commercial out in the ether with Mario to begin negotiations.
Do we have a provision for those? Are they reserved?
I believe, yeah, last year we put a certain amount aside to handle it, and we'll do that again in this year's budget.
Okay.
Right, both on the because there's kind of 2 components to it. One is the cost of coming to a settlement on these, the legal costs coming to a settlement. And so
Yeah.
we take that into account in the budgets, but also on the revenue side, there's an
Yeah.
adjustment there to account for, kind of historically what we think is going to be reductions in the property tax revenue related to these.
Exactly. Which we just approved 2 of this year, tonight, from what, 23? Is that what Lisa said? I think it was there's two items on there for about $150,000.
Yeah, those
Is-
those are a little bit those are a little bit different where they were those were not they're not appeals, they were you know, due to different
Yeah.
different things in billing, but yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any other questions? Any other motions to be made?
Maybe one.
Ian,
Motion to adjourn.
all those in favor?
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for-
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Night,
Thanks,
thank you.
Good night.
I'm gonna abstain from that one, Jim. That's a joke. It's a joke. Have a good night, y'all.
Okay, you want to
Good
stay
night.
on? Come on. Do you want to stay on? I'll stay on with you.
Bye.
Okay, thanks, everybody.